The isolation chamber's walls pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent glow as Lyra pressed her silvery palm against them, feeling for weaknesses. 3 days had passed since the human patrol had found her in the crystalline forests of New Eden. 3 days of unexpectedly gentle treatment that made her skin crawl more than any torture could have. "You're safe here," they kept saying, their voices dripping with rehearsed compassion. The woman who brought her meals, Dr. Evelyn Reese, smiled too perfectly, her kindness calculated like a mathematical equation. Lyra's antenna twitched, sensing the emotional undercurrents beyond her chamber. The humans thought the neural dampeners in the walls could block her species' empathic abilities. They were wrong. She could still feel them, dozens of minds humming with purpose, determination, and underneath it all, a cold, clinical focus that made her shudder. The door hissed open, revealing a tall man in a charcoal gray uniform. His presence hit her immediately, different from the others. Complex. Layered. Dr. Harrison Walsh, according to the badge on his chest. "Good morning, Lyra," he said, using the human approximation of her true name. "I trust you've been comfortable." She studied him through iridescent eyes. Unlike her people who communicated primarily through empathic projection and subtle body language, humans relied on crude vocal sounds. She had learned their English during years of secret observation, but chose to remain silent. Walsh didn't seem bothered by her silence. He pulled up a chair and sat, maintaining a respectful distance. "I know you understand me, and I know you're afraid, but Research Station Helios isn't what you think it is." A slaughterhouse with better lighting, Lyra thought bitterly. Her people had witnessed the humans' arrival on New Eden 3 generations ago. They had watched from the shadows as these invaders built their cities, stripped the land, and occasionally captured her kind for their mysterious purposes. None of those taken had ever returned. "We're studying the unique abilities of your species," Walsh continued, his tone gentle but direct. "Your capacity for empathic connection could revolutionize human understanding of consciousness itself. Help us bridge gaps between minds that have existed since the dawn of our species." Lyra felt something unexpected in his emotional signature, genuine belief in his words. Either he was an exceptional deceiver, or he was a true believer in whatever lies fed this facility's true purpose. "You'll be meeting others of your kind soon," he said, standing. "They've adapted well to life here, I think you'll find." She cut him off with a sharp projected emotion, disgust tinged with accusation. To her surprise, he winced slightly. Most humans weren't sensitive enough to pick up on near-an empathic broadcasts. "Interesting," he murmured, rubbing his temple. "You're stronger than the others." He stepped closer to the door. "Rest well, Lyra. Tomorrow your real integration begins." After he left, Lyra pressed her hands against the wall again, extending her senses. Beyond her chamber, she detected the familiar resonance of her own kind, at least 6 others, but their emotional signatures were wrong somehow. Muted, docile, almost happy. She curled into herself, antenna flat against her skull. The humans hadn't built a research station. They'd built something far worse. A conditioning center designed to break her people's will through insidious kindness rather than force. Over the next week, they kept up the charade. Dr. Reese brought her favorite foods, succulent crystal fruits they could only have learned about through studying her people. The chamber's environmental controls were adjusted to perfectly match New Eden's atmosphere. They gave her comfortable clothing, entertainment devices, even art supplies. Every day, Walsh visited. Unlike the others, he never pretended their situation was normal. He spoke to her about the facility's supposed mission with unwavering conviction, answering her unspoken questions with surprising candor. When she projected skepticism about humanity's noble intentions, he acknowledged her doubts without dismissing them. "Your suspicion is natural," he said during one visit. "Humans don't have a great track record with first contact scenarios, but what we're doing here could change that. Imagine a future where species could truly understand each other, share thoughts and feelings across the barriers of biology. While keeping my people in comfortable cages," she projected, adding a sharp note of derision. He caught the broadcast and actually smiled. "You're getting better at directing your transmissions, more focused." He leaned forward. "And you're right, these are cages, comfortable or not. But sometimes cages exist to protect what's inside them as much as to contain." "Protect us from what?" "From those who would exploit your abilities for far darker purposes than research." His emotional signature flickered with something that felt like genuine concern. "There are powerful people who see your kind as tools to be used, not beings to be understood." It was the first truth she'd felt from him, but it only raised more questions. What was his real role here? What happened to the others they'd taken? And why did he seem to actually care about her responses? On the 10th day, they finally let her out of isolation. Dr. Reese led her through pristine white corridors to a large communal area where other Nirans sat in small groups, engaging in various activities. Their silver skin gleamed under the artificial lights, but their movements were wrong, too smooth, too peaceful. Their antennae remained relaxed even as she approached, showing none of the usual social response patterns of their species. "These are your people," Reese said proudly, "all contributing to humanity's understanding of interspecies consciousness." Lyra felt bile rise in her throat. These weren't her people anymore. Whatever the humans had done to them had hollowed them out, replaced their wild essence with manufactured serenity. She broadcast a desperate pulse of recognition, trying to reach the true minds she knew must still exist beneath the conditioning. Only one, a male working on some kind of artistic display, twitched slightly in response. His antenna quivered for just a moment before falling still again. That night back in her chamber, Lyra made her decision. She would play their game. Let them think their kindness was working. Let Walsh believe she was beginning to trust him. She would learn their methods, understand their true purpose, and find a way to reach whatever remained of her people's consciousness under the layers of human manipulation. But as she lay in her too comfortable bed, another thought tickled the edges of her mind. Walsh's words about protection, the genuine concern she'd felt from him, could there be more to this facility's purpose than simple subjugation? Was he telling a partial truth about darker forces that would exploit her kind? She pushed the doubts aside. She couldn't afford to let their insidious kindness cloud her judgment. Tomorrow she would begin her performance as the gradual convert to their cause. She would smile, nod, even speak their crude language if necessary. Let them think they were breaking her. She would show them just how dangerous kindness could become when turned back against its wielders. 3 weeks into her integration, Lyra had mastered the art of docility. She spoke in soft, careful English during her sessions with Dr. Reese, ate her meals with manufactured contentment, and participated in the facility's countless cognitive tests with just enough resistance to seem natural. But beneath her compliant exterior, her mind worked tirelessly. Every night she extended her empathic web through the station, mapping emotional signatures, tracking patterns. The male Niran who had responded to her, she learned his name was Thern, became her silent conspirator. They never spoke directly, but during group activities, their antennae would sync briefly, sharing compressed bursts of genuine emotion beneath the peaceful facade. It was during one of these exchanges that she first detected the possibility that Thern was not entirely what he seemed either. "Your progress is remarkable," Dr. Walsh said during their daily meeting, reviewing her test results on his tablet. Today they sat in his office, a privilege earned through good behavior. "Your empathic range has increased by 30%. Or I'm finally letting you measure my true capabilities," she thought, but kept her projected emotions calm and cooperative. She had noticed Walsh's unusual sensitivity to Niran empathy early on, but lately she'd begun to suspect it wasn't entirely natural. There was something artificial about the way he processed her broadcasts, like enhanced reception through technological means. "Something's troubling you," he said, setting down the tablet. "Your emotional signature is guarded." Lyra met his gaze. "I saw them take Myra yesterday," she said softly, nomming one of the longer-term Niran residents. "She never returned to the common area." Walsh's expression remained neutral, but his emotional landscape shifted, concern, guilt, and something deeper she couldn't quite read. "Myra's integration was complete. She's been transferred to the next phase of the program." "Which is what exactly?" "You're not ready for that information yet," he leaned forward. "But I promise you she's safe, safer than she would be anywhere else." The weight of truth in his words caught her off guard. She had grown skilled at detecting his lies by omission, the careful ways he shaped truth to serve the facility's purposes. But this felt genuine. He truly believed Myra was safer now. That night, Lyra lay awake in her chamber, processing the implications. The facility's security patterns had become familiar to her: guard rotations, camera blind spots, the subtle electromagnetic hum of surveillance equipment. But there was another layer she hadn't been able to penetrate, a heavily shielded section of the station where emotional signatures went to disappear. She reached out with her senses, pushing against the familiar barriers until there. A flicker of something new, raw fear cutting through the station's artificial calm like a blade. "New arrivals." Lyra sat up, pressing her hands against the wall. Three distinct signatures, terrified and disoriented. More of her people being processed into the program. But underneath their fear, she detected something else, a familiar resonance that made her antenna vibrate with recognition. Her sister, Senna, was among them. The revelation shattered her careful plans. She had been playing the long game, gathering intelligence, waiting for the right moment. But Senna's presence changed everything. Her younger sister's empathic abilities had always been unstable, making her particularly vulnerable to psychological manipulation. A soft chime indicated an incoming message on her room's communication panel. These private terminals were another privilege of compliance, meant for scheduling and approved entertainment only. But when she pressed her palm to the screen, an unexpected message appeared. Not all cages have visible bars. T. There, the message disappeared instantly, leaving no trace in the system. Lyra's mind raced. How had he accessed her private channel? What did he know about the facility's true capabilities? The next day, during morning meditation sessions, mandatory periods of emotional alignment, Lyra carefully brushed past Thern in the garden area. Their antenna aligned for a fraction of a second. The conditioning isn't what we think, his compressed emotional burst conveyed. Some of us chose this. Before she could process his meaning, Dr. Reese's voice cut through the garden's peaceful atmosphere. Lyra, Dr. Walsh would like to see you in Lab 3. Lab 3 was new territory. As Lyra followed Dr. Reese through unfamiliar corridors, she extended her senses cautiously. The lab's shielding was heavy, but she caught fragments of emotion from within: anticipation, focus, and underneath it all, her sister's distinct signature, now muted with sedation. Walsh met them at the lab's entrance. "Thank you, Evelyn," he said to Reese. "I'll take it from here." Once they were alone, he turned to Lyra with uncharacteristic intensity. "What I'm about to show you requires absolute discretion. Are you prepared for that?" Lyra nodded, maintaining her carefully constructed mask of compliant curiosity. But as the lab doors slid open, that mask nearly cracked. The room was filled with advanced neural imaging equipment, and at its center lay Senna, unconscious on a scanning bed. But it wasn't the medical setup that shocked her, it was the other figure in the room. Another human doctor, but one whose emotional signature was impossible. It resonated with Niran patterns. "This is Dr. Marcus," Walsh said quietly. "He's been enhanced with synthesized versions of your species' empathic capabilities. The procedure was voluntary, part of our true research here." Lyra stared at the doctor, who nodded slightly, his antenna-less human features somehow broadcasting clear Niran emotional patterns. "We're not trying to suppress your abilities," his projected thoughts reached her with surprising clarity. "We're trying to replicate them, share them. But there are others who would use this technology to enslave your kind completely." The revelation staggered her. Everything she had assumed about the facility's purpose shifted sideways. Walsh stepped closer, his voice low. "Now you understand why we maintain such elaborate deceptions, why we can't risk the wrong people learning what's really possible here." But as Lyra watched her sedated sister being prepared for some unknown procedure, a new, more terrifying question arose. Who were these wrong people Walsh feared? And more importantly, was protecting her people from them worth surrendering their autonomy to those who claimed to be their saviors? She felt Thern's earlier message take on new meaning. Not all cages have visible bars, including, perhaps, the ones they built for themselves in the name of safety. As Walsh began explaining the detailed neural mapping they planned for Senna, Lyra maintained her outward calm. But beneath it, her mind worked furiously, reevaluating everything she thought she knew about her captors, her people's future, and the true nature of the choice that lay before her. Lyra watched through the observation window as Senna participated in her first integration session. Her sister sat across from Dr. Marcus, their hands nearly touching as they practiced controlled empathic exchanges. The sight made Lyra's antenna twitch with unease. "Your sister's neural plasticity is remarkable," Walsh said, standing beside her. "Even better than yours." "You mean she's more susceptible to manipulation," Lyra replied, allowing a hint of bitterness to color her words. She had begun speaking more openly with Walsh, playing the role of someone gradually accepting their situation while harboring reasonable doubts. "I mean she's naturally gifted at forming neural bonds." He turned to face her. "Which makes her both valuable and vulnerable. You understand now why we couldn't leave her outside." The past week had been a careful dance of revelations and half-truths. Walsh had shown her evidence of other research facilities, ones with far darker methods. Security footage of near empaths being forcibly bonded to military commanders, their will subsumed by chemical and psychological conditioning. Records of black market trading in captured empaths sold to the highest bidder for corporate espionage. "And what makes you different?" she asked, keeping her tone curious rather than accusatory. "Your methods may be gentler, but the end goal seems the same, harnessing our abilities for human benefit." Walsh's emotional signature flickered with that now familiar mix of conviction and guilt. "We're trying to create a symbiosis, not subjugation." Dr. Marcus volunteered for the enhancement procedure because he believed in true collaboration between our species. Through the window, Lyra watched Marcus guide Senna through another exercise. Her sister's emotional patterns were changing, becoming more structured, more human. The sight made her chest tighten. "Come with me," Walsh said suddenly. "There's something else you should see." He led her to a section of the facility she hadn't been allowed to access before. The security doors opened to reveal a massive communications center, walls lined with neural monitoring equipment. And there, working at various stations, were Neurons. Not the docile, conditioned ones from the common areas, but alert, focused individuals whose antennae moved with natural animation. "Meet our senior research team," Walsh said quietly. "Every one of them chose to be here, chose to help us understand and develop these technologies ethically." One of the Neurons looked up Thern. His presence here, clearly in a position of authority, confirmed her growing suspicions about his role. He nodded slightly, his emotional signature radiating complex layers of pride, concern, and cautious hope. "Why show me this now?" Lyra asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Because you're reaching a crossroads," Walsh replied. "Your integration metrics show you're maintaining a careful distance, playing at compliance while looking for weaknesses. It's exactly what I would do in your position." He smiled faintly. "What I did do when I first discovered what was possible between our species." That caught her attention. "What do you mean?" Instead of answering directly, Walsh rolled up his sleeve, revealing a thin silver line tracing his forearm, the same bioluminescent marking all Neurons possessed. "The enhancement process goes both ways. Some of us have been changed by prolonged exposure to your people's abilities. It's not just technology anymore. We're evolving together." Lyra reached out instinctively with her empathic senses, probing the strange dual nature of Walsh's emotional signature. Human patterns interwoven with Neuron resonance, creating something entirely new. The complexity of it made her dizzy. "You're offering me a choice," she said slowly. "Yes, but not the one you think," he gestured to the research team. "We don't need more test subjects or compliant drones. We need people who understand both the potential and the dangers of what we're developing. People who can help us stay ethical while we race against those who would abuse these discoveries." "And my sister will make her own choice when she's ready, just as you will." Later that night, alone in her chamber, Lyra received another message from Thern. "The humans' fear of what we can do is justified. I've seen inside their minds, there's darkness there, but also hope." She thought of Walsh's altered biology, of Dr. Marcus's synthesized empathic abilities, of her sister's rapidly changing neural patterns. The lines between captor and captive, between protection and control, were blurring into something far more complex than she had imagined. A soft chime indicated Walsh was requesting entrance to her chamber, unusual for this late hour. When she allowed him in, his emotional signature was troubled, urgent. "We've received word that another facility has begun aggressive acquisition efforts," he said without preamble. "They're taking Neurons from the outer settlements using forced bonding techniques. Your people are fighting back, but our resistance makes us easier to detect," Lyra finished. Her people's empathic abilities flared strongest under stress, making them visible to the right scanning equipment. "We're running out of time to perfect a safe alternative. The enhanced humans like myself, the voluntary program, it's all moving too slowly." He met her gaze directly. "We need someone who understands both sides, who can help us find a middle path before it's too late." "And you think that's me?" "I think you're the only one who's seen every angle of what we're doing here, the deceptions and the truths, the risks and the potential." He stepped closer. "I think you could help us build something revolutionary or expose us as no better than the others. That's the real choice I'm offering." Lyra felt the weight of the moment, the gradual shift of everything she had believed about her situation. The facility wasn't just a prison or a research center, It was the front line of a transformation neither species had fully grasped yet. But as she studied Walsh's altered biology, his human features marked with traces of her own kind's evolution, another possibility occurred to her. Perhaps the real danger wasn't in choosing sides, but in allowing anyone, human or Neran, to control how their species changed each other. I need to see everything, she said finally. All of it, no more carefully managed revelations. Walsh's relief was palpable. Tomorrow, I'll show you the core labs, the full scope of the program. He moved toward the door then paused. Just be prepared. Some of what you'll see may change how you view both our species. After he left, Lyra reached out empathically, finding Senna's familiar signature in the medical wing. Her sister's consciousness was transforming, becoming something neither fully human nor entirely Neran. The question was no longer about escape or resistance. It was about guiding that transformation before others perverted it into something monstrous. She sent a brief emotional pulse to Thern. We need to talk about everything. His response came instantly, tinged with approval. Finally, welcome to the real work. The core labs beneath Research Station Helios hummed with an energy that made Lyra's antenna vibrate. Walsh led her through security checkpoints that required both biological and empathic authentication, each layer revealing more of the facility's true scope. This is where it began, Walsh explained, entering a vast circular chamber filled with neural interface equipment. 10 years ago, when we first discovered that prolonged exposure to Neran empathy was changing some of our researchers at a genetic level. Lyra absorbed the sight of dozens of isolation pods, each containing either a human or Neran volunteer in various stages of neural synchronization. The emotional resonance was overwhelming, layers of consciousness merging, separating, finding new patterns of connection. Dr. Marcus wasn't the first, she said, understanding dawning. You were. Walsh nodded. I was part of the original contact team. The changes started slowly, increased sensitivity to emotional broadcasts, unusual neural plasticity. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late to stop it, and some of us didn't want to. A familiar figure emerged from one of the research stations, Thern, his silver skin gleaming under the lab's harsh lighting. Show her, he said to Walsh. All of it. Walsh hesitated, then pressed his palm to a biometric scanner. A hidden door slid open, revealing a smaller, more intimate lab space. Inside, suspended in a quantum field, floated a shifting mass of neural energy, silver and pink. Human and Neran consciousness merged into something entirely new. The synthesis, Thern said softly, pure consciousness without physical form, the ultimate potential of our combined evolution. Lyra stared at the ethereal display, her own consciousness reaching instinctively toward it. The merged awareness reached back, touching her mind with impossible complexity. In that brief contact, she understood everything, the facility's desperate race against time, the darker forces closing in, and the true nature of what humanity and her people could become together. The other facilities, she whispered, breaking the connection. They're trying to weaponize this, aren't they? They already have, Walsh replied grimly. He activated a holographic display showing military installations across the galaxy. Forced consciousness transfer, empathic warfare, mental slavery on an industrial scale. We're barely staying ahead of them. Thern moved to a control panel, bringing up detailed neural maps. Your sister's integration is proceeding faster than we anticipated. Her natural ability to form stable neural bonds could be the key to making voluntary synthesis safe for larger populations. And if she doesn't want that responsibility, Lyra asked sharply. Then she walks away, Walsh said firmly. That's the difference between us and them. Every step has to be a choice or we're no better than the ones we're fighting. But Lyra had caught something in his emotional signature, a flicker of doubt quickly suppressed. What aren't you telling me? Walsh and Thern exchanged glances. Finally, Walsh spoke. The changes once started can't be fully reversed. Every Neran who forms a deep enough bond with a human affects both their evolutionary paths, and vice versa. Including Senna, including me. Especially you, Thern interjected. Your sustained resistance to integration while maintaining close contact with Walsh has created something unprecedented. Your neural patterns are evolving even faster than your sister's. Lyra felt a surge of anger. So we were all test subjects, even the ones you claimed were here by choice. No, Walsh stepped closer, his emotional broadcast intense. We're all test subjects. Every human researcher, every Neran volunteer, we're all changing, all taking the same risks, because the alternative is letting them turn this gift into a curse. A sudden alarm cut through the lab. Walsh rushed to a monitoring station, his expression darkening. They're here. A Black Ops team just breached the outer perimeter. Theirn's antenna went rigid. How? The security protocols. We're compromised, Walsh finished. They've been watching us, waiting, and now they want everything we've developed here. He turned to Lyra. You need to make a choice right now. What kind of choice? Whether to trust us completely, Theirn said. The facility has emergency protocols, ways to protect our research, our people, but it requires total neural synchronization between key personnel. Understanding dawned. You want me to link with the synthesis, become part of whatever you're creating here. Not just link with it, Walsh said quietly. Help guide it. Your unique neural evolution, the way you've maintained your identity while adapting, it could be the stabilizing factor we need. The facility's walls trembled with the sound of distant explosions. Warning lights flashed as more security barriers fell. In the neural containment field, the synthesis swirled with agitation, reaching out tendrils of combined consciousness. Lyra looked through the observation window into the main lab, where her sister worked calmly despite the chaos, her awareness already partially merged with the humans around her. Not enslaved, as Lyra had feared, but transformed into something new, something chosen. If I agree, she said to Walsh, I need your word that any Neran who wants to leave can go, no matter what we discover through the synthesis. You have it, he replied without hesitation. This only works if. Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. Through her empathic senses, Lyra felt unfamiliar minds approaching, cold, aggressive, hungry for the power they thought they could seize. She made her decision. The neural link was nothing like Lyra had imagined. As her consciousness merged with the synthesis, she remained distinctly herself while expanding into something vast and extraordinary. Walsh's mind touched hers, then Theirn's, then others, a human and Neran awareness flowing together like tributaries into an ocean of shared understanding. Through their merged perception, she saw the facility as a living thing, its defenses guided by their collective will. The invading forces hit barrier after barrier of combined technological and empathic shielding. They're accessing the upper levels, Walsh's voice echoed through their shared consciousness, attempting to reach the primary research data. Let them, Lyra projected, show them exactly what they're trying to steal. Understanding rippled through the collective. Together, they opened specific neural channels, allowing the intruders to witness the full complexity of human Neran synthesis. The sheer overwhelming nature of merged consciousness, the years of careful evolution required, the impossibility of forcing or controlling it. Through security feeds, they watched the Black Ops team falter as their neural scanning equipment overloaded with data they couldn't process. Some dropped their weapons, staggered by the psychic backlash of trying to quantify something that could only be freely given. In the midst of the chaos, Senna's consciousness brushed against Lyra's within the synthesis. I understand now, her sister's thoughts came clearly, why some of us chose this. The invaders fell back, their carefully planned assault crumbling in the face of something they couldn't dominate or contain. But Lyra sensed others behind them, powerful figures watching through remote feeds, already planning new approaches. They won't stop, she projected to the collective. They'll keep trying to possess this power. Then we'll have to change faster than they can adapt, Walsh's consciousness responded. Show them a moving target, an evolution they can never quite grasp. Through their combined awareness, Lyra accessed the facility's most classified files, understanding at last the full scope of what was happening on New Eden and beyond. The synthesis wasn't just a merging of minds, it was the beginning of a new kind of existence, one that could never be caged or controlled because it existed in a constant state of transformation. You knew, she broadcast to Theirn, you knew I would choose this. I knew you would understand it, asterisk, he corrected, the same way I did when I first discovered what was possible between our kinds, why I stayed to guide others. The facility's automated systems finished sealing off compromised sections, trapping the remaining intruders. Through their shared perception, Lyra felt the moment the invasion force realized their failure. Not just tactical failure, but something deeper, the understanding that they had fundamentally misunderstood what they were trying to steal. As the synthesis began to stabilize, individual consciousness remained distinct while seamlessly connected. Lyra felt Walsh's genuine relief. his deep-seated belief in their work validated by her choice. She sensed Senna's growing confidence as her sister explored her new capabilities. And beneath it all, she felt the pulse of something larger awakening, the first stirrings of a genuine shared evolution. What now? She projected to the collective. Now Walsh's thoughts merged with hers. We show both our species what's possible when transformation is chosen, not forced. When change comes from understanding, not dominance. And the others like us, Senna asked, the ones still hiding in the forests. We invite them to see, Thairn responded, to choose their own path of evolution, or to remain as they are, knowing will protect their right to choose. As their merged consciousness settled into new patterns, Lyra maintained her unique perspective. The part of her that had questioned and resisted, now transformed into something that could help guide their shared journey. Not a captive or a savior, but a bridge between what was and what could be. The synthesis swirled with possibilities, human and Neran consciousness dancing in patterns too complex for either species alone to comprehend. Through their shared awareness, Lyra felt the first ripples of change spreading beyond the facility, other humans and Nerans sensing the emergence of something revolutionary. They'll come looking for us again, asterisk, she projected, thinking of the dark forces that had tried to seize their work. Let them come, Walsh's consciousness intertwined with hers. What we're becoming can't be stolen or controlled. It can only be discovered together. As emergency teams began securing the facility, Lyra maintained her connection to the synthesis. Not as a prisoner of human ambition or a victim of forced evolution, but as an architect of a future neither species could have imagined alone. The neural void between minds had become a space of infinite potential, where the whispers of transformation were growing into a symphony of shared becoming. Her final thought, broadcast through the collective, was not of victory or defeat but of transcendence. We are not what they tried to make us. We are what we choose to become. The synthesis pulsed in agreement, human and Neran consciousness resonating with new purpose. Beyond the facility's walls, dawn was breaking over New Eden's crystalline forests, its light refracting through a world that would never be quite the same again.